Okay, so last time we showed the RD idea by show you a hypothetical example, that is we want to know the effect of the NTU on your earnings in the futures. And time in this video, I will give you more example, and one example actually really demonstrate the above idea, are the idea by examining the economics returns of attending the most selective public state university on graduates people the people's earnings. So that means the things we just mentioned in last lectures actually can really use the real life data to and are designed to estimate the returns of attending good school on your salary. So in US, most school use SAT score to determine who can go to who can go which school. And for a good university, they also have higher SAT score. Also require higher SAT score. So you can see you can think for some university, for example, Harvard, they have some SAT score, minimal SAT score, or high school GPA. So for simplicities, the author just focus on the SAT score and do some adjustment based on GPA to combine these two criteria. So you can consider if you pass some SAT scores cutoff, you might attend some good schools. If your score is below the cutoff, you cannot. So compare the people who around the cutoff. One attend good school, one attend to another second tier school. We can identify the effect of the attending good school on their outcomes, for example, their earnings. So the author match the students who applied to these good schools in 1986 to 1989 with the administrative earning data in 1998 to 2005 and applied RD design. So a good RD studies picture basically tell everything. So we just focus on the pictures. So the first things you need to show is passing the cutoff really generate higher probability for attending good school. So here is you can consider this graph just show the treatment. The treatment really has some discontinuity at cutoff. So the y-axis is enrollment rate in the good university, and horizon axis is the SAT score, and we recenter to the minimum score for that good school. So recenter to this minimum score. So we adjust to this admission cutoff. So 0 means the minimum score for attending good school. So you can see there's a clear discontinuity in terms of the enrollment rate at cutoff. So if your score is just above the minimum SAT scores, basically the enrollment rate will suddenly increase by around, you can see, from 10% to the 50%. But it's not change from 0 to 100%, because some people, they have eligibility for go to good school, they decide go to another school. And this also shows that SAT score cannot fully determine whether they can go to good school or not, because some of people who does not get just above the SAT minimum scores, the minimum score for admission, they still can enter the good schools. But in any case, the probability of attending good school actually has some discontinuity around the cutoff. So that's very important. You need to make sure the treatment really change around the cutoff. The treatment assignment really change around the cutoff. And then you can show the outcomes, compare the outcome around the cutoff and below the cutoff. And you can see actually there's the discontinuity here. There's a discontinuity here. But be noise because this is the outcome variable, not like the treatment variable. Okay. But they get estimation is around 10% increase in terms of their earnings. So earnings increase. If so, this give you very clear evidence that if you enter a good school, you might earn more. And the assumption behind this is around the cutoff, the students are similar. They are from very similar family background, might have very similar ability. The only difference is one just get a little bit more SAT points, one get less. So one enter the good school, one enter the second tier school. So the discontinuity around the in the outcomes, we can interpret this can be attributed to this discontinuity to the change, to the effect of attending good school, good university. Okay, so that's example. So where there is the cutoff, there is the RD design. You might be able to use. So here I give you more example. For example, in health economics, one important question is the effect of health care intervention on your health status or other outcomes. So for example, if you stay in the hospital longer, whether can make you health status, improve your health status. And this sounds obvious, should be, otherwise why you go to hospital. But actually it's very hard to verify because there's a selection bias. Those who need healthy intervention, they must be very sick. So that's why they have to go to hospital. So if you compare the people who receive more health intervention with those who receive very little, does not stay in the hospital, you might find those who stay in hospital are sicker. But does this mean health intervention make them sicker? It's obviously not. So it's just due to the selection bias. So in this paper, they try to understand the effect of health intervention. For example, go see a doctor more or stay in the hospital longer in the early childhood on their later life outcomes. And the selection bias I just mentioned is the children who need health intervention in early childhood could be very sick. And they might have very bad later life outcome. For example, low educational attachment. So that basically means those who receive more health care is not comparable with those who does not need health care. So we need to eliminate this selection bias. So we need to compare the people who receive more, not just because their health state due to their health status. So these two authors, they very clever and they may understand some doctor practice. So they consider this the RD solution, RD design. That is, they know the doctor actually has one habit or one so-called guideline is if the baby, his or her birth weight are below 1,500 grams, they are eligible more health care. That's basically based on their guidelines. And if the baby, their birth weight are just below the cutoff, below the just above these 1,500 grams, the doctor might think, based on the guidelines, they don't really need to give additional health care for them. So that will generate very big discontinuity in terms of the healthcare utilization, hospital stay, or other healthcare input has some discontinuity around the uh, 1,500 grams. So for those who just below 1,500 grams, their birth weight just below 1,500 grams, this baby will receive much more healthcare intervention. But for those who just above, for example, 1,501 grams, they are also very dangerous, not very healthy. It's also low birth weight. But due to this guideline, they receive much less healthcare intervention. So, but their health status should be very similar. You can consider the baby with the birth weight just 1,499 grams versus those who has the birth weight 1,501 grams. They should be very similar. They are all unhealthy. They are all need a lot of care, but the care they receive due to this guideline are very different. So we can compare the mortality rate or other outcome between the infant, the baby just below or above the cutoff of 1,500 grams. We can evaluate the effect of additional healthcare in the early childhood on their health status and other outcomes. So here, the first things they just show that the doctor really do that, follow the guideline. They give more attention on the people who just has the birth weight below the 1,500 grams. So in terms of this treatment, the days in hospital, if your baby's birth weight just below 1,500 grams, for example, 1,499 grams, they will stay in hospital for 32 days. And if your baby's birth weight are just above 1,500 grams, for example, 1,501 grams, these additional grams actually will make they just receive 26 days. They can just stay in the hospital for 26 days. But actually, these two group of infants, these two group of baby should be very similar in terms of their health status. But one receives 32 days inpatient care, one just 26 days inpatient care. These 6 days difference actually generate a very big difference in their future life, for their future life. But of course, they also have the other different receive very also in terms of other healthcare also very different. So here is just example. And they find actually it will make those who stay in the hospital longer, the mortality rate are much less. And this gap actually is quite large. So on average, if you stay in hospital longer, the death rate is 10%. But if you does not stay in the hospital for a longer time, for these 6 days longer, the death rate is jumped to 50%. So this change actually is represent around 50% difference. It's a very big difference. From 10% jump to the 15%. That's a 50% increase compared to the baseline. And more interesting things is this also affect their math score when they are in the junior high school. Those who receive additional health care, they have higher math grade when they are junior high school compared to those who receive less. Okay, so this gives you very clear evidence to just additional healthcare service, healthcare intervention actually can be a good investment that can reduce the mortality rates when you are young and also increase your human capital. Okay. So another example is based on the political science, political economics. They want to know one important thing is they want to know how the incumbency, the political incumbency, provide whether this incumbency can provide any electoral advantage. 现任者优势. They want to know those who are in the positions, maybe whether they will elect, have more likely to be elect next time because they can use their administrative advantage or administrative resource try to make they can win the election next time compared to the people who lose in the last time election. But there's a selection bias because people who can win the election last time, last time, that means they are incumbent. They should be more popular compared to those who lose. So we need to solve this selection bias. So that means those who are incumbent, they can win maybe just due to this selection bias, not due to their incumbency, their political incumbency. So here is the RD solution. They can just they use the candidate who barely won, just won the election. So they become the incumbent. That means they win, for example, 51%. And compared to those who just the candidate who barely lose, that means they get just for example 49%, but they lose the election. And so one get elected, one do not. But they are all very similar. They are all popular actually. They get very similar vote share, but just one pass the half, one does not. And they compare the probability of getting elected next time. And this could represent the incumbency advantage because both are very popular, so we can kind of like reduce this selection bias. The only difference is one become incumbent, one does not. One lose, one does not have this resource. And if we can find very big difference in the probability of in the next winning probability of the next election, that can represent this incumbency advantage. So that's their result. So their axis, horizontal axis is the vote share last time. So 0 means they recenter to the winning the vote share, for example, 50%. So if you just above the 50%, basically you are incumbent, and just below the candidate actually lose last time. And they want to compare the outcome is the probability of winning the election next time. And they find those who win barely won last time, the probability of winning next time actually is much higher than those who lose last time. The probability difference actually is around 50% difference. So this gives you very strong advantage. Evidence suggests those who are in incumbency has very big advantage. Even we compare the people who have very similar popularity, they all win very similar vote share last time, but the winning probability in the next election are very different. And this can represent the incumbent advantage. Okay. So another final example I would like to show you is there's another discontinuity you might find using the GIS data, the spatial data. So these just demonstrate try to understand the effect of the extending unemployment insurance benefits on unemployment durations. And here they focus on the policy in Austria. Some region in Austria, they extend their unemployment benefit from 30 weeks to the 209 weeks. Very big increase. And some area just keep the 30 weeks. So they use the spatial discontinuity design. So that is the blue line is those who extend to the 209 weeks UI benefits. And uh, white regions, they keep 30 weeks. And if you compare the unemployment duration, the outcomes for the white area and the blue area and white area, it's not comparable because these two are very different area. They are very different labor market condition. But if you just compare the people who live around the border, for example, here the border, very close to the border, they might share similar labor markets condition. And the only difference is one just live in the blue area, one just live in the white area, and they can receive very different unemployment insurance benefits. One is 200, one is 30. And we can just compare this very close to the border, the workers who live in very close to the border, to see the effect of extending UI benefits on their labor market outcomes. And they actually find, so here the assignment variable is the distance to the border. So positive number means they are in the blue area, and negative number means in the white area, within the white area. And you can see around the border, there's a discontinuity in terms of the outcome, the unemployment duration. So for those who just live in the blue area, their unemployment duration will be 26 weeks. And if you just live in the white area, the unemployment duration is 13 weeks. So they have very big difference in the 13 weeks. So this suggests extending benefit to the 200 weeks will increase the unemployment duration, but not big, not very large. The effect is not very large. Okay. But this just demonstrates the cutoff. You can also use some geographic discontinuity. So cutoff can happen a lot of places. You just need to keep in mind, and that might be able to let you answer very interesting questions. So RD actually has been invented. This method has been invented in very early in 1960. It's actually from the education psychology, this field. The first RD paper, they try to understand the effect of the scholarship on the students' future outcomes, like earning something. And their assignment variable is the GPA. If your GPA is above some number, 3 or 3.5, you can get a scholarship. If not, you cannot. So they compare the people whose GPA are very similar, are very close to the cutoff, and do this RD design. But it's not used much in economics until the late 90s. And this is due to there's very big data start to use during the recent these 22 decades, recent 2 decades. Because RD only use the sample around the cutoff. So you need very large sample size. The goods you need the administrative data that cover whole population that basically can allow you to do RD design. For example, this, even we have a lot of data, but we just use the data, the babies around the cutoff. Only use the baby whose birth weight is around 1,500 grams. We don't use the data here and here. We compare the people who are around here. So even we have a lot of sample, we just use the sample very close to the birth cutoff. And that means we need the population level data. Otherwise, we cannot really implement RD design. Okay. And such data actually is available during the past 2 decades. So there are 2 type RD. One is so-called sharp RD, another is called fuzzy RD. And the difference is for sharp RD and fuzzy RD is the sharp RD, everyone need to follow the treatment assignment rule. That means if your assignment value is above cutoff, you will get treatment for sure. If not, you cannot. But fuzzy just say the probability of getting the treatment jumps discontinued at cutoff. So not jump from 0 to 1. So you can consider sharp RD is the special case of fuzzy RD. But in this lecture, we just focus on sharp RD because this is more intuitive and basically it also capture all the concept of RD design. So in this lecture, we just focus on the sharp RD design. Okay, so that's for this video. Thank you.